We are meeting up on the first of the new year, and the new year is 2024. I imagine the gym is going to be a lot busier than usual for the next week or so, and then it'll start to taper off. Well, what's going on? Well, it's New Year's resolution time. Why do you think people do that? What's the attraction of doing a New Year's resolution? Well, I'll answer it as I see it, and I think it's sort of what we've talked about in previous encounters here, and that is a desire sometimes to look inward, which I think is a good thing, and see where our lives are carrying us and how we've done, sort of taking stock and deciding where the improvements might be if we think we have some areas to grow, and really every one of us does, whether we admit it or not, has room to grow. That's really why I call this conversation series My Growing Edge, because I like the vision of that, finding the area where growth is helpful, necessary, or at least a good idea. And that's what I sort of would wish for all of us as we face 2024. For me, it's a matter of being more open minded, I suppose, and looking at those areas where others disagree with me, and seeing why that might be, and am I missing something important that means a lot to them? If so, I need to be flexible about looking at that point of view and beginning to incorporate it into my own thinking and see why I've been so rigid in those areas where I feel strongly. Are there some areas that I think are rather inflexible? And this, I'm hesitating here because this is a tough one. You know, we can always talk ourselves into that mindset. What are those areas that we simply refuse to budge on, or don't even want to listen to an alternate viewpoint? And I have some of those, I'll admit it, and my friends know that. Those that I see in person, we often discuss points of view on that differ, usually, or often at least, on those areas that are typically raised as topics to avoid in polite company, namely religion and politics. So those are areas that I like to talk about, so I can get myself into quite a web of an entanglement of disagreement if I'm not too careful. So does that mean I should budge in those areas that I feel very strongly about? Well, if it's not a matter of conscience, and that to me is the area where I draw the line. If it is a matter of conscience, I can't budge. I can still hope to appreciate the alternative viewpoint, maybe even begin to understand why people feel the way they do, not so much with a mind toward converting them to my way of thinking, although that's always an ideal that maybe isn't even a healthy one. But I think in terms of matters of faith, it probably is a good idea for me to at least gently entertain the notion of change in an area where I feel there is so much to be gained by having a healthy and confident faith life in addition to your secular life. And I know people who struggle with this or who are completely closed minded to the idea of entertaining it. But let me branch off on this briefly on this first day of 2024. Faith has sustained me immeasurably over the past year. I've gotten over a great fear of imminent death, which was brought to me for the first time just about a year ago. And it's been a tough week or so, not every day, but it's popped in my head a couple of times. And I went so far as to review some medical notes that were compiled during January and February of 2023, which gave me a pretty dire outlook that my life was likely to be in great jeopardy and maybe even end before the year was out due to this lingering cancer at the base of my skull. I got over that in large part because of a strong faith life and having those who partnered with me in reminding me of God's role in my recovery and how allow the scientists that are also doing a great deal to facilitate my recovery. And believe me, I think that is a partnership. All of that made that fear be at least put on the back burner in favor of confidence and optimism. And that's where I am most of the time. But again, we all stumble back, or at least I do from time to time. And as that anniversary approached, where all this began to unfold for me just about a year ago, I admit to a few relapses where I looked at those notes, probably shouldn't have, but reminded me not only of what was told at that time, but also how learned people can be incorrect. They think they're right, and they really mean to give you accurate information, but there is a great deal that we don't know, even the experts in medical fields and in many other fields as well. So we have to look at these bits of information and the advice that we get with a certain, not hesitancy necessarily, but a reluctance to take it as the absolute truth, because there is so much in our lives that we don't know about or can't know about in advance. Relinquishing that control, or admitting that we need to the higher power, to God, in my tradition, makes it easier for me to get along, and also understand that even people who are doing their best don't know everything that they wish they did, or that they sometimes think they do. So going forward into 2024, I'm going to build on that optimism. Again, having confidence in the best advice that's out there for me in my personal effort to stay viable and healthy, but also understanding that so much of my future, and indeed yours, is not in our control or any other person's. Yes, we have a great deal of discretion, and we need to exercise that. But I would also suggest and hope that however you go about it, you would recognize the limitations, your own, those of even the people who love you, and those who care for you in a professional way, and understand that God's role is also vitally important to your security, your happiness, and your confidence in going forward. And indeed also, I think, in your relationships with others. So if I can leave you with any opening advice for 2024, it's that. Be open to all those influences. Trust your judgment based on an open mind that allows matters that are not matters of conscience to be contemplated and possibly modified. Let's start together with that in mind. That's my hope, and my wish for you now is a Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Good luck.